Oh, I had assumed that Mom had a ton of. I told you I had money saved up, didn't I? Her out by now. What's the use of allowing the unemployed parasite to remain here? Since moving here 3 months ago, my savings were washed out by my son and his spouse. I was done with them treating me like a mate. With everything, so I quickly and silently went. I was phoned by my son. Mom, what's up? Tony seemed desperate when he spoke on the phone. Then something I had done had turned into headlines from around the country. My name is Sarah, and I'm 70 years old. Been residing in France for a while. However, things got worse with my heel, so I returned to my native United States. Unit was vacant, so I contacted to see if I might help my son and his wife remain with them temporarily. Tony, my only 44-year-old lone son, works in an office employee. Neither he nor his spouse Alice do have children, and they appear to depart silently. While I was away, we lost contact, but I opted to get back in touch, and Tony appeared to happy to hear from me. I have described my situation and requested permission to remain for. Tony hesitantly admitted after a while that it was uncomfortable to force upon them, yet the joint. Seeing my family again brought me more joy than my hesitations, laced with a hint of anxiety. And joy, I rode in a taxi from the airport to their residence upon my arrival. Alice and Tony welcomed me to the Tony appeared content as Alice made her arrival. Was clearly upset, and I intend to stay here. For some months, my possessions will be delivered later. With my carry-on luggage, I headed to the living room. We spoke about our everyday lives and employment in addition to my most recent French life. Tony inquired as to why I had relocated to. I mentioned earlier that I'm getting older in France. Wish to take in the French countryside scenery. Tony chuckled, but Alice didn't change. Then we spoke about my health problems. Experiencing extreme lightheadedness, and was the minor's illness can be the cause of a seizure happens. Folks might not be able to stand as a result of the surroundings being spinning and possibly experiencing nausea. Felt uneasy being by myself. Thus I desired to remain with them till my circumstances stabilizes. Following a discussion, I had returned to the entryway to retrieve my items from my carry-on. While I was arranging my belongings in the hallway, overheard Alice and Tony talking. Are you really going to let Sarah go, Tony? Staying puts me against living with an elderly. Come on, woman, you work too. She's my mom. Part-time, so you won't necessarily certainly be present. But what about our days? I want to know how long she plans to stay off. Her gone? Don't speak that way, Mother will. When you finally depart, we can talk about money. Just keep it quiet tomorrow. She might hear you, but she's too elderly to listen to us. Bring keen ears to detect slights. And their IEES dropped out of the discussion in. I apologize for imposing in the chilly hallway. Tony and his spouse, so all of a sudden I'm. Yes, it's a major hassle for them. However, you should know that I'm pretty content right now. Chatting with Tony and his spouse. Following the years spent apart, when Tony was small, I was a single mother raising him. Following the death of my husband, Tony experienced his fair share of hardships. Coping with disease and everything isn't making up for it. But I was hoping to attend here to express my thanks and regrets. I came to this residence for that reason. It's a regret that I'm not welcome, but they have to live their own lives. Therefore, I visited that I tried to relax into the guest room they gave me. Next morning, Tony departed from my troubled heart. For work, and Alice and I were alone. As I was working on some crafts on the sofa, Alice was in the living room in front of me. Hey Sarah, please stop creating such a mess. Glancing around, I saw remnants of cloth and haphazardly placed threads. I'm sorry. Do you know what this is that I cleaned it up? I showed her the little bag I was making. On it, I had a small green turtle design. This is a turtle-themed purse. I adore turtles. I create small crabs with a turtle motif. Even features a zipper on its exterior. That's good, but Sarah, just relax. During the day, Alice interrupted me. Clearly bored inside, looking very much at. When I'm off, at least go somewhere else. You're obstructing me from my part-time work. But if I go outside too, I get lightheaded. Much, I'll take you to the adjacent community center to remain there throughout the day I have household responsibilities. Without allowing for further discussion, Alice stated, he kept on helping out with the responsibilities. You'll not be reading while you're here. The least you can do given that we're permitting you to stay, do some instead of crafts. Laundry and cleaning eventually astounded me. Murmured, all right, and then gently stood up. From then on, I completed all day. Even though I was woozy and hurt, I took on the housework. Tony and Alice handled me. Alice appeared more like a housekeeper, addicted to social media all the time. It appeared from her phone that she hadn't been completing the housework before I. Did you bring your mother with you that night? Upon Tony's arrival at home, his banking card spoke to me with a smile that I don't. Although you live with us, living is expensive. Could you add something? I glanced over at Tony. I nodded at my reading glasses and got up, took my handmade banking card out, pouch and gave it to Tony, who he examined. Quickly, his expression stiffened as he waited. Mom, have you saved anything else but this? Accounts are all I have. They are unnecessary. A great deal at my age, no chronic diseases, or whatever I stated while grinning as the talk went on, and Tony's expression. This is not enough money, darkish man. Not even 10,000, as you claim to be alive. Huge overseas. So I thought Tony maintained asking persistently whether I had any more money, so I said no, and he sighed. Shrugged his shoulders. Okay, I'll wait. For the time being, I'm giving you a kindly allow you to reside here, since this is the very least that you could do following my bank account password was taken by Tony, and debit cards, departing from the space that as I lay in bed at night, I could hear Tony tooting through the dividing wall. Our rooms, what a disappointment. Completely believed that Mom was wealthy. Actually, the household is losing money. I should not have allowed her to stay and see me. Told you to get rid of her already. Unemployed moocher does not benefit us. Regardless of how the two of them seemed. Sure, I couldn't hear people speaking openly in the adjacent room, or perhaps they desired me. I was listening to them in my chilly bed, keeping back lonely tears and sadness the following day due to Alice's day off. She took me to the neighborhood center. I unzipped my duffel bag to keep up my maintenance in the living room, but discovered I was no longer in the necessary cloth at home, so I was hesitant, but I was unable to beg Alice to return and retrieve. Thankfully, my discomfort was under control today. I was familiar with this region, so I opted to stroll home in order to obtain when the fabric did arrive. I looked via the veranda into Alice's home, and an unknown male were present at. I initially believed him to be a guest, but they appeared very close, so I hesitated. Ate outside for a little before returning without going into the residence, which is why they want my departure, so that I wouldn't reopen the affair. While in the community center, my thoughts kept concerning Alice and those men and chose to call someone for guidance going forward. Refrained from discussing the men and kept communicating with Tony and his wife. But every time I went out of the house residence, I would boldly display a crimson turtle pouch on the brink of existence. Room side table after 3 months. Ever since I moved in with Tony's. By now, my family had become the homes built during my time there. I had a ton of things to perform at home, and when Alice was at home, so I was put in the community center. The majority of my savings had tired of Tony, a man with age addicted to gambling and spent the most of his spare time to play the lotto, and slots seemed to be his obsession with money. Originated from the financial difficulties he's suffering as a child. I first made an attempt to act, but ultimately obtained. Bringing it up always made him 3 months later, I was at my breaking point. Before a lengthy weekend one evening, I chose to bring a piece of equipment I had been taking Tony Alice into consideration. I appreciate that you, Tony, please let me stay with you. I know I made your life difficult when you were. Sorry, I was young and didn't have much money. For all the hassle I've brought about, but I'm with gratitude. I took out a handmade turtle bag from the table. It had a green color and this shell zipper serves as a reminder of, I hope you will both feel my thanks. You'll like to take it in defiance of my. Neither Alice nor Tony had any expectations, expressed any curiosity about my artisanal pouch. Mom, have we really reached our limit? Consider the French account when you have money. I informed you, Tony, that we are out of luck. I put a lot of effort into this. Please accept it as a symbol of my love. Keep in mind how joyful you were when you were little. I used to feel the shell with some chocolates and small cash. Tony begins to become more displeased. I'm not a child anymore. Pleased to get such a thing. Sarah, for how long are you planning to stay? To genuinely swindle us. It annoys us. Tony and his spouse cast me in a chilly light. I frantically begged Tony, do you remember? Joe was the one who helped us in that old. We resided in an apartment that I don't recall to quit bringing up the past. Are we done being silently stunned? I tightened my grip on the turtle pouch and examined the papers feel inside the tomorrow. Tony and his spouse embark on a holiday leaving me behind, as I had anticipated, leaving the house following yesterday's talk, so I hurriedly packed my luggage with the designated courier and dispatched them, going for my French home. I also Do not forget to insert the red turtle pouch. My carry-on bag. I jot down a brief note that thank you and depart from the table, the residence where I had spent 3 months later. I never went back home. Instead, I remained in the United States hotel for a little since I had tasks to complete, and Tony and his spouse seemed to get in touch with me. Eventually, true enough, after roughly 2 weeks, Tony calls Mom later. Let's head to the turtle pouch. Isn't that yours? Tony yells into the phone, hearing his words. You saw that I wasn't shocked when I observed the turtle incident on the news. Bag that I intended to present to Tony and his wife found a $1 check inside. Million was my method of expressing gratitude for all of their actions and to express regret for all the mischief I made when I was younger. Some may consider it superficial to a ton with cash, but I had imagined the day I may gift it to them after modestly storing enough. I did some excavating a little over 40 years ago, prior to finally running into Tony and discovered that he owed money. Attempted to settle bills from gambling with additional gaming only to find himself descending further. He had a reliable employment. I just desired that he pay off his debts, and they were unwilling to go in peace, though. Acknowledge my gesture fully, forgotten about their generosity shown to me and my family. Thus I made the decision to split $1 million in checks, modest amounts, and made charitable donations and welfare associations worldwide. America, where I put the gifts, created a turtle bag by hand and delivered it. The turtle pouch became an anonymous sensation, trending and generating headlines. A social media user named Alice. That's the turtle pouch, Mommy, mate, right? That implies you intended to give us one. Rich as well, yep. Just that was my means of expressing gratitude to you, and I apologize for creating both the pocket and putting the cash aside to donate to. You could have, in fact, claimed that we would have accepted if you had not wanted to. If you don't need my money, then my sentiments. Tony was either shouting into the phone. Utterly insane. How much is that? Would you dare trick me and return it? Became inattentive and removed the phone away from my ear in a little amount of time. Said, all right, relax. You're offering. There's another turtle, and I have a headache. And it's yours if you truly desire it. Tony at last calmed down and restated his craving for the turtle that we decided to meet in a cafe afterwards on the day I went. The final red turtle within a package to Tony and his spouse met where we'd already present and made a money demand prior to my actually sitting down when Tony silently removed the red turtle. Grabbed it right away, unzipping. It's not a check, but rather a little shell. Electrical gadget. What the devil is this? Tony tinkled with the unclear gadget. He discovered a small button, and when Ellie pressed it, a voice started to play. Standing beside Tony right away, Alter Hugh, seated close to Tony Alice's face, altered upon hearing a speech recording. It was Alice's voice, cordially speaking with something about another man who wasn't Tony. This explains why Alice's situation appeared to ultimately understand that it was a video showing her having an affair at. She attempted to steal the recorder at home from Tony's palm, although Tony clung to it. As they struggled, unlocked it. I brought an envelope and spread it out numerous photographs of Alice on the table. Cheating at home on another man provided with unquestionable proof. Alice became agitated and asked Ming why. Why did Tony pick up each picture individually? Analyzing them carefully ever since I arrived at things felt strange about your home. A buddy suggested that I hire a detective to find out and even made the offer to pay for them. What's the issue, and why would you do it? It's sad that you are my son's wife. To believe relatives are lying to one another. When you're older, you'll comprehend. I suppose fate brought me here to learn. Alice, have you been unfaithful to me? I've been with you ever since Tony got your personal secrets. If you're placing the blame for cheating on her, you should fuck off. What about the fact that I have never cheated? Tony, your debt fell silent, and it's now. When it was Alice's turn to talk, how about you? Throwing away all of your cash on gambling. Just make use of the funds you and I have. Your part-time work, thus you ought to. Some cash while taking in their squabble. This pair had managed to get their eyesight to maintain its unity up until this point. Neither of Tony. Do you have any money? You have $40,000. Dead Alice, you've dedicated all of your profits to your partner in affairs that I had. The investigator also looks into your financial situation. Tony and Alice were both taken aback, and they started yelling at one another, and I was stunned when I initially heard the inquiry findings show that this pair was on the verge of bankruptcy. But we can make it. Return the money if we get Mom's funds. Now give it to us. I've given all that's left is this red money. Turtle statue, which he destroyed in my recall what happened to savings and gambling. You're not serious about all that in range. Tony sprang across the table at me. Other clients began to focus. And the employees rushed past the 1 million is mine. It was intended for me to give it back quickly. The cops needed to be summoned to hold Tony until the police spoke some common reason to him. They graciously took me back to my hotel because of my worries regarding Tony's combative conduct. 1 week later, Tony and Annalie. The partnership has declined. Repair as a result of their financial situation. Obtained. Tony, a divorced man, is now even more single. Engrossed in gaming a scene more than he was discovered attempting to steal company funds. He was spared from prosecution, but was let go, which worsened his anger at the cafe. Was recorded on producing a video and sharing it on social media. He has trouble finding another work. Unable to take the disgrace, Tony disconnected every interaction and vanished following Alice's divorce, moved into an ancient house with no one to rely on, living alone in a public housing unit. Prior to my being able to donate to the turtle rescue is visible in my blog post. Ridiculing my own turtle became widely known. Alice began to experience intimidation and sexting. It ultimately extended to her part-time. Even the man she worked with and got her fired was involved in an affair and became weary of her and now departed without a paycheck. She is receiving temporary support for dependent. Following that, I went back to my family's. Once I'd finished unpacking, back home in France, I put on a dress in my apartment. The ease of practice while I was going over certain work pages where I heard a sound. The entrance appeared to be Joe, my roommate. Had arrived back home, Madame President. Hello again, and how was your journey? After a long absence, Joe arrived in America with grinning. He puts down his luggage and coat. Joe, who is 75 years old, lived in the same residential building where my son lives. Tony and I used to live together years ago. was battling poverty after losing my spouse and taking care of a young Tony, asthmatic. We were without utilities and without anybody to ask for help. I was desperate and thought of giving up on everything. Joe and his spouse were upstairs. Our neighbors were the ones who saved us. Lifelines, give me a ring. I'm back, Sarah. And see, I brought a ton of... Wow. All of my faith mementos, thank you. I'll bring a few to the storytelling gathering. Joe, see you tomorrow at the community center? Looked over each of the accumulated mementos. His happy expression on the table after we, having regained our footing, Joe and his, years after the wife moved away for employment, we encountered one another in the city, and I started assisting with a program of support for the poor, on whom Joe had established. Joe's wife had already died by then, so we began collaborating as a company life partners. I have been in charge of this structure after Joe left a few years ago. Years back, what was once a tiny Joe and M's venture has developed into an extensive international organization. In the last 30 years, we've been concentrating on assisting lone mods in racing a few years before moving to France, past to examine their advanced assistance systems, even though we gain a lot of recognition. In France, our reach is still limited. Acknowledged in America, I intend to grow our plans there shortly and desire to invest time in Tony's family as only a mother before they learned about my work. In the end, I was unable to obtain them to comprehend my feelings, but that's their decision, even if it was just temporary. I was content to act as if for a family even though I'm 70 years old today. Even at 70, I still have a lot of wants, and I have to strengthen my back in order to attire and started considering my worldwide speech in support of. Next day,